Well, hello and welcome. You are listening to On Cloud 9, episode 4.
4.
I'm Chris,
I'm Carolyn.
and today we're talking about budgeting as a married couple. And
Yeah.
I had this titled Budgeting as a Couple, but I wanted to allude to the fact that this is specifically tailored towards married people.
Yes.
Because I think it's very different budgeting as a single person, or if you're in a relationship, or if you're married.
Yes. I
Three
agree.
very different things. So I wanted to make sure that we noted that this is for tailored towards married couples, although some of the things will be helpful to anybody.
I agree.
Agreed?
Yeah, that's a very good point to make. Yes.
And I have to say something.
Okay.
I have an interjection before we get started today. And it's not about the Little League World Series this time.
Okay.
So I'm excited about this episode for two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm very excited about budgeting and talking
Yes.
about budgeting because it's been a super positive thing for us to do in our
Mhm.
marriage. And two, because this is episode 4 and I read a statistic that I have not confirmed, so I don't know if it's true.
Okay.
But it said that 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3.
Really?
Yeah.
That's an interesting stat.
And this is number 4, which puts us in the top 10% of all podcasts.
Well, go us.
If that statistic is correct.
Yeah. That's really cool, though.
Yeah.
This
I
has
thought
been
so.
fun.
I've really
You know?
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it's
too.
been good, like, for us in our relationship.
I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, just
Yeah.
good things all around.
Yeah. Good quality time. I
Yeah.
like it.
So, we have 7 steps today
Yes.
that we think are the best, maybe not the best 7,
True.
but the
there
7
could-
that
yeah.
we have followed to achieve our goals financially
Correct.
and put us in a better place for the future.
Yes. And by followed, by like he means followed strictly.
Yeah.
We made a commitment to do this, and yeah, we're not joking around with it. So
Yeah.
it's been really good though.
Yeah. So I know there's definitely a lot of budgeting tips and tricks out there, and everyone has their opinion on theirs. This is ours. This is what's been good for us. And so take it or leave it.
Yeah,
We're going to stick to it because it's working very well.
very well for us.
So
Yeah.
what is step number 1?
Step number 1 is actually talking about debt.
Yeah.
If you have it, some people are very fortunate and they don't have any debt. Up until a couple years ago, that was me. And then 2020 happened and things went downhill very quickly after that. So it's very important to talk about debt. It is an awkward conversation no matter what, but it is probably the most beneficial finance conversation you're going to have with your spouse. And I highly encourage you to have that conversation about debt before you get married. I think it will save you a lot of time and a lot of frustration, and it'll just kind of prepare you as well to come up with a game plan for once you get married and how you are going to start your budget as soon as you get married and come up with a plan for the future going forward from there. But yeah, step number 1 is to actually talk about debt.
Yeah. I think that's a big one. I think that's maybe the hardest step
I think
for some
so.
people, because I know that, I mean, and I've been in debt too. We were both in debt going into our marriage, and we've worked very diligently on it. But talking about it, yeah, maybe the hardest and most awkward, tough conversations that you'll ever have with your spouse. We did it before we got married, which I would highly recommend. You don't want to go into a marriage with, what do they call it? Rachel Cruz, who's Dave Ramsey's daughter, calls it financial infidelity.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a good way of putting it, because it's just so important to know the other person's financial status. And I don't say that to dog on people with debt, because I've been there. And I don't say that to praise people with no debt, because I mean, great for you. That's awesome. but everyone's at different steps in their journey, and talking about it is hard, but necessary.
I agree.
You don't want to go into a marriage and then you get married, you do the thing, and then you move in together, and oh, my spouse has $100,000 in debt that I had no idea about, and we're paying thousands of dollars a month on this. That's a tough place to be. And I think an even tougher place to be is getting married and not talking about finances at all. So I would say talk about debt and then talk about what your plan is for finances to combining together before you get married, just so you're on the same page.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I think our approach too, as it's not us against each other when it comes to finances, we are together tackling our debt. So it's the two of us versus our debt, the two of us versus our finances. It's not you versus me and we're trying to figure this out and scatter it, where you see a lot of couples constantly fighting about money because they don't have enough in their bank account, or they're splitting their finances, and one person's paying for some things, one person's paying for the other, and they are constantly like, bickering about that. And I think it's been really helpful for us to just constantly like remind ourselves that it's us versus the debt. It's not us versus each other. We made that decision together.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. If you can sleep together, you can share a bank account.
What does Rachel say? If you can share a bed, you can
share
a bank
bed,
account.
you can share a bank account. Yes. Yep. I think that's a good saying. I think we're not going to go too much into that on this episode about why you should have one bank account between you. I mean, multiple for investing and things like that, and saving and spending, but one together. I think when you get married, you should combine finances and not do it separately. But that's a whole nother conversation. We're just going to stick to budget or else we'll go for hours.
Yes.
Okay. So number one, talk about it. Get your dirty laundry out there.
Yes.
So there's no confusion.
Yes, correct.
And number two would be to discuss your short and long-term financial goals. And that just is, short term for a lot of people will be tackling debt. And then long term will be, what do we want to do in the next 30 years? Do we want to buy a house? Do we want to rent? Are we planning on having kids? Because all of those things are going to impact you financially. And you need to be planning for them, whether it's, like I said, house and kids are the two big ones.
Right.
But cars or big purchases, new TVs, if we're going to pay cash for our cars, are we going to set money aside for maintenance for those cars? Are we going to put money away for Christmas, for getting presents for people? All of those things, so that when they come up, it's not like, oh, I need $1,000 to buy Christmas gifts. I need $1,000 to put tires on the car. So none of those are surprising.
You're right. And it prepares you too for an emergency. If something happens, you're not panicking, thinking, how are we going to prepare? How are we going to afford this?
Right.
It takes a lot of the stress and the panic out of the unexpected as well, if you can sit down and make your long-term and short-term goals.
Definitely. Yeah. And long-term also, I mean, when are you going to retire? Do you want to retire at 60 or 70 or 80? Or do you want to hit it really hard now and retire at 40 or 50? I mean, all those things are possible if you, just make a plan. You have to make a plan with your money, or it's going to make a plan for you.
Yes.
And you're going to be a slave to it.
Absolutely.
So I think sitting down together as a couple and saying, this is what I want to do, this is what you want to do, let's write it down. And so we're on the same page. And these are all things you do before you actually budget.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, we're just leading up to budgeting, but these are the things you need to do beforehand to successfully budget.
Yes. I agree.
So short and long-term goals, number 2.
Number 3, agree on a budget together. That's a big one.
You glared at me when you said that.
Oh no, it's not a glare. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it as a glare. I keep hitting my microphone too.
That's okay.
No, I should have probably looked at the camera when I said that. Together. That is the biggest thing for our marriage specifically, we made the decision before we got married that there was going to be one person in charge of the budget, and that was Chris. We made that decision. I am not a numbers person. Chris is very much a numbers person. He loves charts and graphs, and he can add things on the fly in his head. And I'm not wired that way. My organization skills are honed in other aspects. So we made the decision he was going to be the one that kept track of the budget. But we also use tools as far as tracking all of our expenses and making sure that we're not going over budget, things like that. We planned all of that out together. We talk about it every month, and actually a lot more than that. But yeah, we made the decision together because if you really want to succeed in paying off your debt and accomplishing the goals that you set out, you can't do it just one person in the relationship or in the marriage. It's not going to happen. You might be successful for a little while, but it's overall in the long term not going to be successful if it's only one person constantly making the decisions about money and things like that. I feel like that's probably where you get a lot of resentment that will creep in from the other person, or you get into a situation where it might be a little bit more authoritarian, so to speak. So that was huge for us, is making sure that we agreed on the budget together, that if there were finances that were going to be coming up in the long term, like Christmas, like you said, or planning for car maintenance, things like that, we brought it up and brought it to the table and said, okay, what do you think about this? And then if both of us agreed on it, okay, we carried on with it. If one of us didn't, we kind of put a pin in it, talked about the things that were important, and then we went back to it to see, okay, if we can't do this now, what about next month, so to speak. But every single decision that we have made about finances has been together. We're both on the same page. Nothing is done if one of us doesn't agree. It's off the table. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, I think you covered most of the big things. Mm-hmm. I mean, we do it together so that there's no unexpected things coming up. And yeah, I mean, I think you covered most of what needed to be said for number 3.
Yeah.
I mean, we just do it now that we've done it for quite some time. I kind of set the budget for the month and then take it to you, and we go over it monthly. And then if you have anything to add, we talk about it. Or if you have any questions, we talk about it. But generally we have pretty good flow now.
Yeah,
where it doesn't really change month to month.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same old.
No, it's changed a little bit now that holidays are coming up or birthdays and things like that. But other than that, it's pretty much, all right, here's where we're at. Nothing's really changing, and you just kind of roll with it.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's been good. I also think too, just to add on to that really quick, it keeps you honest with each other about where the money's going when you're doing it together. You can't just have an unexpected $500 charge show up in the account that you didn't talk about together or one person wasn't aware of. I think it keeps you very honest with where you're spending your money, because it's not just you making the decisions on your own.
True.
It's teaching you to be less selfish with things, and not even just with money, but I think less selfish in your conversations and your day-to-day life, just because you're not doing something on your own. You're doing it together.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and we have, line items in our budget specifically for individual spending. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I can't get you a gift and you wouldn't know about it, right, or you can't get me something and I wouldn't know about it. I know a lot of people probably saying, how am I supposed to ever get them their birthday gift if I can't do anything without? So we have specific items in our budget for things like that, so that you can still keep that surprise.
Right.
Which is nice.
Yes.
Which leads us to number 4, and a very important one in my opinion, as a numbers person and a visuals person. Number 4 is write it down.
Yes.
You can't do it in your head. It's impossible.
More power to the people who can and can effectively budget with it just in their head. But I don't know. I don't know a single person that can actually do that.
I don't think that's real.
No.
I think that people who say they do their budget in their head are not as accurate as they think they are.
I agree.
you spend money way too often. Not you, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
You spend money way too often to do all of that in your head. I mean, there's too many numbers and pennies and cents, and there's just no way. You have to write it down. This is a non-negotiable. Write down your budget. Use an app. We use EveryDollar, which is the Dave Ramsey. Shout out Dave Ramsey. We really like him.
Yes.
I know some people don't like him.
It could be a little bit of a hot take.
That's fine. We like him, and we've been successful following his advice.
His baby steps have transformed our financial future and financial present as well. So
yeah. So I think, yes, definitely write it down. We recommend the EveryDollar app because it does so much for you. And we don't even use the paid version. We use the free version. And it's a little more work because you have to put in everything you buy, but you know where every single penny goes.
Yes.
And it's so nice.
Truthfully, I think it's helped me break some of my spending habits also by having the free version and manually having to put what I'm spending in, because I think about it a little bit more of like, oh, do I really want to take that out? Do I really need this, or am I just buying it because I'm bored kind of thing? So I think, I mean, personally, total sidetrack, but I think it's helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Breaking some bad habits.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I mean, you put it in there and you can see the bars progressing in the app. So as you spend throughout the month, you can literally see your money dwindling away.
Yeah.
Like, I only have so much left. So it just keeps you honest. And I mean, I would recommend it. I don't honestly know of any other ones because we've used that one and been so happy with it. But I would definitely recommend some sort of tracking app as opposed to writing it down physically on paper or doing it yourself in a spreadsheet. If you're really good with spreadsheets and you know the formulas, you can do it. But most people don't have that expertise. So I would say just download the app. It's free and
do that. I think Mint is another one that I've heard a lot about. And I think that's partnered through Intuit, who makes QuickBooks and things like that.
They have enough of my information.
Yeah.
They don't need any more.
Yeah. But that's, I think, the only other one I know of for sure that you could use instead of EveryDollar if you want to. But
yeah. What's number 5?
Number 5 is stick to the budget.
Damn it. Stick to it.
Actually stick to the budget. It is, in the beginning, so much easier said than done. When you are really, well, actually, I take that back. It depends on the person. If you are 100%, this is the decision I've made, this is what we're doing, or what I'm doing, this is just how it's going to be, and you are just gung-ho determined that that's how you're going to change, and this is the plan that you're going to stick to, sometimes it's easier for people to do that. I'd say the majority of people probably struggle with this the most, where unexpected instances come up where somebody invites you to dinner and you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to go. Or there's a last minute vacation or a weekend trip and someone's like, hey, come with us. And you're like, yes, I'll be there, because you don't want to say no to the experience and you don't want to miss out on it. I think that's where it gets a lot of people in a trap. It's hard. It's not fun if you're in a situation where you have debt built up and you're trying to pay it off and you can physically see the numbers of, okay, wow, I don't have as much money as I thought I did. It's hard to say no to those experiences and to miss out on some things. But when you can physically see the number decrease as far as your debt is concerned, and you see your savings increase and you feel more free because you are in control of your money, it makes it worth it, at least in my opinion. I mean, we've had to turn down a lot of experiences already, you know, vacations, trips, last minute, you know, dinners and things like that, just because we had blown through our budget for restaurants for the month. And we're like, hey, thank you for the invite, but we're just going to cook at home. Like, we need to stick to our budget this month or for the next few weeks until the end of the month. Or, you know, there's a few trips that came up that we ended up saying no to just because we want to be able to hit our goal of when our debt is paid off. And so we're like, you know what, for right now, we're going to say no to this trip, but next time still ask us because we might be in a different spot. And it can be a little bit frustrating. It can be a little bit humbling But at the same time, at the end of it, we've already surpassed our goal for the year. And so, which is so cool. And we
Yeah.
keep track of that too. We write it out on our prayer board and keep track of what we're at. So we've already surpassed our goal for the entire year. And we did that last month.
Yes.
Yeah,
Last month.
we did it last month. So in 7 months, we surpassed it. And so that was really cool to see of like, okay, we're saying no for the right reasons. We're doing something right. It is actually making a difference. And now we're like, okay, well, the end of the year is going to happen and we'll be at what, 90%?
Yeah.
90% total paid off. And our goal for the year was 50. So that's been really cool to see. But
yeah, definitely very
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
But sticking to it is, I mean, it's not easy. Like you said, we've turned down dinners, vacations. We have our families at the beach right now in
Yeah.
Florida. So shout out them. Hope you guys are having a good time.
I miss you. Say hi to the ocean for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not fun missing those experiences. And I won't pretend like I'd rather be here than there. But it's a short-term sacrifice for a much longer-term goal that I'm certain will be worth it.
Absolutely.
Just
agree.
for the peace of mind.
And it makes a huge difference too, knowing that we're both on the same page when it comes to that.
Yeah.
We're both equally as frustrated that we have to miss out. Because, I mean, I think both of us agree we'd rather be at the beach right now. However, knowing where we're going to be because we made that decision to not spend the money to go on vacation and we put it towards debt instead, that makes it worth it. I'm like, if we had to make the choice again, I would, just because I know where we're going to be at in the long term and the financial freedom we're going to experience at the end of this makes it easy to say no to a quick weekend trip if that's where we're going to be in a few months.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, the short-term sacrifices, it's easy when you can see your goals and see the path that you're on, which is why number 2, our second step, is discussing your short and long-term goals. Because once you have those laid out, you know how to get there. And that makes sticking to your budget easier when you know what you're working towards. If you're just going into your budget for the sake of making a budget and you have no long-term or short-term goals, you're going to have no reason to stick to your budget. Because why
Absolutely.
would you? You're just living life on the edge of triple zeros in the account,
Yeah.
which is a scary place to be. So yeah, sticking to it, not easy, but certainly worth it.
Absolutely. And having the reminder too of past experiences where we have both been through similar situations in the past before we got together, where there were times where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills this week. I don't know where this money's going to come from. And it's very humbling to be in that position and then to also be in a spot where you're too prideful to ask for help. I think having that in the back of my mind of I never want to get to that place again is so much. It's just fuel to accomplish these goals that we have, whether it's a short-term or a long-term goal of like, I don't ever want to be in that position. I don't ever want to feel like I'm not going to be able to feed myself. I mean, thank God family is close enough. I would just go to my parents' house randomly for dinner before I finally opened up and told them exactly what was happening. But yeah, I never want to get back to that spot. And so I think that's why it's so easy to stick to it, but it's also so easy to communicate about the budget together and be open about it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which leads us into number 6, which is review it monthly.
At least.
At least.
Yes.
That's the important part.
At least.
So we review our budget on the first of the month every month. We have a few first of the month traditions that we do in our relationship.
Yes.
But this is an important one. We go over, like I said, I set the budget usually a couple of days before the month's coming up, just so I can have an idea. I review the prior month to see how we did, and then I go and make the current or the coming month's budget, and then we go over it. Every month on the first this is a non-negotiable as well. We have to do this because we both need to know exactly where our money's going.
Yeah.
And what I would recommend and what we do is we always pray before we do our budget meetings, because we know that finances can be such a hot topic for couples, and it can be a place of terror or a place of peace. And I would much rather have it be a place of peace in our marriage, because I mean, it's just one of those things that we all know people struggle with. And I'm not saying that we don't struggle with making financial decisions, because we still do too. But this is something that will ruin a marriage and tear a marriage apart. And we don't want that to happen to us, especially over something as silly as finances. I know it seems like such a daunting thing, but it really is minute. And once you talk about it, it makes it so much easier. And I would definitely recommend praying before you do it.
Yes.
Just, I mean, even if it's simple as like, hey, please let us have peace for the next 30 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
Just, you have to do it. It's for the same reason that you talk about debt in step 1. You need to review it in step 6, because you need to see where you are with your debt plan. You need to see what extra money we have from last month that we need to put towards debt this month. You have on your car needs tires coming up. So we've been planning that for the last few months now. We have to put money away extra to pay for these tires. And maybe we don't go out to as many restaurants, or maybe we have more chicken and rice for dinner and not sushi.
Yeah.
So just little things that may change month to month like that. Like I said, ours is pretty standard now, month to month. Only a little couple things change here and there. Like if something happens with the car. I mean, your car broke down a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And we had to spend quite a bit of money on it. And same with my car, my air conditioning broke. And in the Texas heat, that is
not a good thing.
rough. Yeah. So, I mean, things come up and need to be done, but it's why you have an emergency fund, and it's why you review every month so that there's no surprises. And the reason I say at least is because these things do come up during the month, and you have to pivot a little bit, and you have to pull money out of some other places to pay for this.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I think being able to do that and sit down once a month, it also gives you time. Let me backtrack. I like the point that you made about us praying before. That is huge for us. Just like Chris said, like we don't want our conversations about finances to be something that tears us apart. We are very much tackling our finances together as a team. And I think praying beforehand gives us a reminder of it is us versus debt. It's not us versus each other. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, having that time where we pick a specific day every single month. And there's been a couple times, like in July, we were out of town for the 4th of July. So we were gone on July 1st. So we had our meeting as soon as we came home, instead of talking about it on vacation. So you make a pivot, but I think having that set to where you know it's coming, first of all, so then you can prepare yourself to have that conversation if there's anything that needs to be discussed that's on your mind of, okay, this next month, like I'd really like to go do this experience, and you need to figure out how much it's going to cost so you can bring it up during that, that time. But it's also a great opportunity for us to celebrate our little victories. And I think that's been huge, of keeping track of how much debt we've paid off so we can write it on our prayer board or fill it out on a sheet so you can physically see it. Because if you're paying debt and you know it's going to take you longer than a year, some people are in situations where it might take 4 to 5 years to pay off your debt. And that might just be student loans, credit card debt, you're trying to pay off your house, whatever the case may be. It gets exhausting after a while when you've been doing it for so long. If that total number you're trying to pay off is so big and you're over here trying to pay off this total number, but you're still like maybe 10% through, it can get exhausting. And that's where you're like, man, why am I still doing this? Like, why am I still making these extra sacrifices? Why am I cutting these subscriptions every month? Why am I getting a second and third job? Why am I still paying selling my clothes on Facebook Marketplace or whatever it is? It gets exhausting. And so having that time every month to sit down and see, okay, we hit this goal and this is huge. We need to celebrate it. It doesn't matter how you celebrate it. One time we went out and got some ice cream or something afterwards, but it's just that high five that you can give each other of like, wow, like we did this together. That's huge. And so I kind of cherish those monthly meetings. Like, oh, it's coming up. Like it's not dreaded
Right.
by any means. So
Yeah, it definitely gets easier. At the beginning, it's hard. I mean, talking about your finances and opening that piece of you to somebody else is hard, but it gets easier. I mean, now it's just second nature.
Yeah.
We have no problem talking about money together, which is how it should be. I mean, if you're married and you're one together, it shouldn't be something that tears you apart. It should be something that you look at and you celebrate together. I think that's very important. Unfortunately, it is a divisive and hot topic, and that's sad and unfortunate. But I think sticking to these steps will help.
I agree.
And then the last thing is
Live stress-free about money.
yeah, just a little fun little bonus step.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you're not going to be stressed about money. You will be. But in your month to month, once you take the steps and figure your budget out and figure out where you're going, it will alleviate a weight off your shoulders, undoubtedly.
I agree.
Because you won't have to worry about how you're going to pay for groceries this month, or how you're going to pay for the water this month, or electricity, or how you're going to... Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
You drive your car to work, put gas in it. All of those things, you'll know exactly where that money is and exactly where it's going. So it will take some stress off of you. Now, that's not to say that in the beginning, it may increase your stress a little bit. If you're in debt, when you first take the time to... My dog's saying hi. Millie's saying hi to us over here. When you first take the time to write down all of those numbers and combine them all and look at them, it can be terrifying. The numbers, if you're in debt and you haven't looked at how much debt you're in and combined it all, you should. And you should do it. You should pause this and do it now.
Yeah.
Because there's no time to waste. You have to start getting after this, because it is going to grow and it is going to grow and it is going to grow. And the way I think of it is like this. I thought of this morning. Getting out of debt is like being in a hole, and you see those videos where it's like some little tiny guy in a big hole, and you're like, how am I getting out of this hole? Well, no one's dropping down a ladder for you. Unless, there's some circumstances, the only ladder getting dropped down is the lottery. And if you're in debt, you better not be playing the lottery, because that is $2 a ticket that could be going towards your debt. But there's no ladder being dropped down in that hole to save you. You have to crawl your way out of that hole. You have to, I thought of this, build a staircase from that hole, and that's your way out. And you don't even have a shovel. You are doing it with your bare hands. You're carving out every single step and crawling out of that hole by yourself. But when you get to the top, it's so fulfilling and
That's
so
really
worth
good.
it.
That's really
And you
good.
can look back and see how far you journeyed up those steps. And it works. No matter how far in debt you are, your hole's just a little bigger.
Yeah.
And it'll feel even better.
That's really good. I like that, babe.
Thank you. I thought of that myself.
That's good. I like that.
So I think that's all we got regarding budgeting.
Yeah.
Real quick. One, talk about it. Talk about your debt. If you have it, if you don't, awesome. Skip to step 2. You are so far ahead of the game. Congratulations.
I'm proud of you.
I am proud of you
Yes.
too. And I am so happy for you. And I mean that genuinely.
Yeah.
So talk about debt. Number 2, discuss your short and long-term financial goals.
3 is agree on a budget together. Keyword together. Not one versus the other. Do it together. And then number 4 is write it down. Keep track of it somewhere on paper, on the computer, in an app, but physically write it down so you can see it.
Yep. And then 5 is stick to it, because it's useless if you don't. If you're not going to stick to it, why even start? Although please start. You're gonna trip and fall, and you're gonna miss. The first couple months you're gonna miss. I promise. If you budget, you're gonna be wrong at 1st, but you'll hone in exactly what you need.
Yeah.
So stick to it, stick to it, stick to it. And number 6, review it monthly at minimum. More if you have to, more if things come up, the car breaks down, the air conditioning in the house breaks, whatever it is. Your kid got mad and threw his baseball bat through the drywall.
I mean, it could happen.
Things happen.
Yeah.
And then number 7, like we said, live stress-free,
Yes.
which is a bonus. And like I said, you will have a little bit of stress because life's hard.
Yeah.
But about money, you don't have to stress.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
I hope that was helpful. Like I said, I was very excited about this episode because it's something that we've been through together and I've struggled with for a long, long, long time. And once you get a hold of it, it is so relieving. And so I hope if somebody's listening and they're in that place, that we can just like be a beacon of light for you and know that you're not alone. It's hard. And we're not that finance expert couple on Instagram who's got the dream house because we invested in Bitcoin at $3, you know. It's hard out there. And money is stressful, but I'm telling you, if you stick to your plan, it gets better and you can live the life that you want to.
Yeah. That's good. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, we're
You ready for the card?
moving on to the most anticipated part of the podcast.
It's connection card time.
It's connection card time. I love the connection card.
I do too.
Whose turn is it?
I don't know. You can read it.
I think it's mine because it was the music thing last time.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
All right.
memory. Oh no.
How appropriate for this episode and the fact that I was just saying you better not be playing the damn lottery.
What is it?
Awesome. It is, if I won the lottery, what would I do first?
Call our financial advisor.
Okay, that's true. I was going to say you better not get this wrong. Yeah, I would definitely do that. You're right. I was going to say pay off debt.
Well, that would be the next thing, but call our financial advisor for sure.
Yes.
Shout out, you know who you are. And then talk to him and figure out what the next steps would be. But if we had any debt at that time, pay it off. And then go from there.
Yeah, I can promise you that it is funny. I said pay off debt, but I would never win the lottery and then pay off debt because I wouldn't play the lottery while I was in debt.
Yeah.
So it'll never happen.
True.
So I think you're right. Call your financial advisor.
It's better to spend money with a plan than just throw caution to the wind.
Definitely.
Then the next thing you know, it's gone. So.
Absolutely.
But I think it would be really cool if we did ever win the lottery because we somehow decided to play, that we would be in a position to give back. That would be my biggest thing. I mean, it'd be obviously nice to buy some cool things, but more importantly, I would want to just bless other people with it that are struggling.
Yeah, that would be a good feeling.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's all we got today.
All we've got for episode 4.
Episode 4 done and dusted.
Yeah.
Well, if you made it this far, thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you.
As always, we do appreciate it. If you found anything helpful, leave a Instagram message. Let us know. Share this with your friends if you think they may be struggling, or family members, or anyone who you think it may be helpful for. Because like we know a lot of people do struggle with this. And if we can help those people just stress less about money, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed it, share it, leave a review. That would be awesome. As always, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And our social medias are Instagram and Facebook. Mm-hmm. And they're all on Cloud9. Spelled out. Spelled out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's all we've got. And You want to say it?
You can say it.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.